I'm not looking for trouble with you, Marshal. It's Jerry here's got me all riled up, him and that girl.
I don't know. But I'll tell you something, Doc. You better not mess around with Nate.
Ken Curtis remains one of the most recognizable faces from classic American television, especially for his long role in the Western series Gunsmoke. Many fans still remember him as Festus Haggen, the rough but loyal deputy who brought both humor and heart to the town of Dodge City. His character became so popular that it often felt like he had always been part of the show, even though he actually joined later in the series. Over the years, stories about his life behind the scenes have circulated widely online, especially claims about disagreements or tensions with other actors. However, much of this is based on fan discussion, interviews taken out of context, or general Hollywood rumor rather than clear, confirmed statements. What is certain is that Ken Curtis built a long and respected career across music, film, and television, and he worked during an era when Westerns dominated American entertainment. Like many actors in long-running shows, he worked closely with a large cast and crew for many years, which naturally leads to both friendships and professional disagreements. But the real story of his life is much broader than conflict. It includes his early struggles, his success in music, his transition into Hollywood, and his unforgettable time on Gunsmoke. Understanding his journey requires separating dramatic storytelling from documented history, while still appreciating why fans are so fascinated by his personal and professional relationships. In the end, Ken Curtis is remembered more for his warmth on screen and his contribution to television history than for any supposed feuds, making him a lasting figure in the golden age of American Western entertainment. Ken Curtis was born as Curtis Wayne Gates on July 2, 1916, in Lamar, Colorado, and his early life was very different from the Hollywood image he later created. His father worked as a sheriff, and because of that, Ken actually spent part of his childhood living inside a jail building. While other children played in open fields or town streets, his surroundings included jail cells, iron bars, and the constant routines of law enforcement life. His mother worked as a jail cook, which meant she prepared meals not only for the family, but also for inmates. This unusual environment gave him a unique view of human behavior at a very young age, something that may have later helped him portray grounded, believable characters on screen. Despite this unusual upbringing, Ken showed early interest in music rather than law enforcement or medicine. During the Great Depression, however, stability mattered more than dreams, and his family encouraged him to pursue a safer career path. He briefly studied medicine at Colorado College, but it quickly became clear that his passion did not lie in textbooks or medical training. Instead, music continued to draw his attention strongly. Eventually, he made a life-changing decision to leave medical studies and pursue singing full-time, even though this was a risky move during uncertain economic times. This decision marked the first major turning point in his life, showing both courage and independence. It also set the foundation for everything that followed, as his musical talent eventually opened doors to some of the most important opportunities in American entertainment history. Ken Curtis's professional breakthrough came through music long before acting made him famous. In the early 1940s, he joined the famous orchestra led by Tommy Dorsey, one of the most important band leaders of the big band era. At the time, Dorsey's orchestra was already a major force in American music, and Curtis joined during a period of transition after the departure of Frank Sinatra. This made the challenge even greater, as audiences were adjusting to a new sound and new vocalists. However, Curtis quickly proved himself with his smooth voice and natural stage presence. During this time, he also made an important professional change by adopting the stage name Ken Curtis, which was suggested as being more suitable for show business. This name would soon become widely recognized across music, film, and television. After his time with Dorsey, Curtis moved deeper into Western-style music, eventually becoming part of the well-known group Sons of the Pioneers. This group played a major role in shaping the sound of classic Western music, blending harmonies with storytelling themes about frontier life, cowboys, and open landscapes. Curtis's voice fit naturally into the style, helping the group maintain popularity during a competitive era. His work in music also connected him with radio programs and live performances, where he gained experience in entertaining audiences beyond just singing. These years were extremely important because they taught him timing, audience awareness, and performance skills that would later become essential in acting. His musical background gave him a strong foundation, and it is one reason he was able to transition into Hollywood more smoothly than many other musicians of his time. As his music career developed, Ken Curtis gradually moved toward acting and the world of Western films. His natural fit for cowboy roles eventually brought him into contact with major figures in Hollywood, including director John Ford and actor John Wayne. Ford was known for creating some of the most influential Western films in cinema history, and Wayne was already a legendary figure in the genre. Curtis appeared in several of Ford productions, often in supporting but memorable roles that allowed him to showcase his personality and screen presence. Unlike many actors who struggled to find their place in Hollywood, Curtis seemed to fit naturally into the Western world, both in appearance and performance style. He was not trying to be a traditional leading man. Instead, he brought a sense of realism, humor, and everyday personality to his characters. This made him valuable in ensemble casts where chemistry mattered more than individual spotlight. During this period, he continued to take roles in various Western-themed films and smaller productions, building experience and recognition. His career path was steady rather than sudden, which helped him develop a long-lasting presence in the industry. By the time television westerns became popular, Curtis already had years of experience in the genre. This background made him a strong candidate when opportunities in television began to grow, especially for shows that required actors who could handle long-term roles and strong ensemble dynamics. His transition from music to film was not just a career change, but gradual evolution shaped by consistent work and strong professional relationships. Ken Curtis's most famous role came when he joined the cast of Gunsmoke in the mid-1960s. At that time, the show was already one of the longest-running and most successful Western series on television. Originally, Curtis was not intended to be a permanent character. He was brought in as a replacement after the departure of Dennis Weaver, who played Chester Good. Weaver's exit left a noticeable gap in the show's dynamic, and producers needed a new deputy character who could bring something fresh while still fitting into the established world of Dodge City. Curtis introduced Festus Haggen, a rough, humorous, and deeply loyal character who quickly became a fan favorite. What was originally planned as a short-term role turned into a defining part of his career. Over time, Festus became one of the central figures of the series, appearing in hundreds of episodes and shaping the show's identity during its later years. As with any long-running series, fans and media often speculate about relationships between cast members. Some discussions suggested tension or competition among actors, such as James Arness, Milburn Stone, and Amanda Blake, but much of this comes from fan interpretation rather than confirmed disputes. Working on a series for many years naturally involves creative differences, especially regarding scripts, screen time, and character development. However, the cast of Gunsmoke was also known for professionalism and long-term collaboration. Curtis himself often expressed pride in being part of such an iconic show, and his performance remained consistent throughout his time on the series. His character's humor and emotional depth helped balance the show's more serious tone, making him an essential part of its later success. Behind-the-scenes discussions about Ken Curtis's relationships with colleagues and producers have often been exaggerated over time. In particular, some stories suggest disagreements with producer John Mantley regarding script direction, character focus, and compensation. Like many long-running television productions, Gunsmoke had to balance budgets, cast demands, and storytelling priorities, which sometimes led to creative disagreements. Curtis, having built Festus into a beloved character, naturally wanted fair recognition and meaningful screen time. However, producers had to manage the entire ensemble cast, which meant not every character could always be in the spotlight. This balancing act sometimes created tension, but it was also a normal part of television production rather than personal conflict. Another widely discussed moment in later years involved a reunion television project in the late 1980s. Curtis did not participate, and speculation grew about the reason. Reports suggested that contract negotiations did not meet his expectations, and he chose not to return under those conditions. While fans interpreted this as a sign of conflict, it is more accurately understood as a professional decision about compensation and value. Outside of this, Curtis maintained a relatively private public image and did not engage in public disputes. He also avoided turning disagreements into media controversies, which helped preserve his reputation as a steady and professional actor. Over time, many of these behind-the-scenes stories became part of online mythology, blending fact and rumor into a simplified narrative of feuds, even though the reality was more complex and often much less dramatic, i.e. in his personal life. Ken Curtis experienced both stability and change, much like his professional journey. He was married multiple times before finding long-term companionship with his later wife, and his relationships reflected the challenges of balancing Hollywood work with personal commitments. His final marriage brought him greater emotional stability and a quieter lifestyle away from the constant demands of television production. After his long career on Gunsmoke ended, he gradually stepped away from major acting roles, choosing a slower pace of life. He continued to appear occasionally in smaller projects, but his focus shifted more toward family and personal time. One of his later appearances was in the early 1980s television landscape, where he took on roles that reflected his long experience in Western storytelling. Eventually, his screen appearances became rare, and he spent more time away from Hollywood. Ken Curtis passed away in 1991 at the age of 74, leaving behind a legacy strongly tied to the Western genre. His death marked the end of an era for many fans who had grown up watching him on television. He is remembered not only for his role as Festus, but also for his earlier contributions to music and film. His career reflects the journey of a performer who successfully moved across different forms of entertainment while staying true to his style. Today, Ken Curtis remains a respected figure in classic television history, representing the golden age of Western storytelling and the enduring appeal of characters built on humor, loyalty, and humanity. Ken Curtis's legacy in American entertainment is strongly connected to the golden age of Western television, especially through his long-running role in Gunsmoke. But his career becomes even more interesting when we look deeper at how he worked within Hollywood's studio system and how actors of his era navigated fame, competition, and long-term television success. In the middle decades of the 20th century, television was still developing, and Western shows were among the most popular formats in the United States. Actors like Curtis often worked under strict production schedules, long filming hours, and limited creative control compared to modern performers. Because of this environment, misunderstandings and creative disagreements were common, even if they were not personal conflicts. Curtis worked alongside a large ensemble cast, including figures like James Arness and Milburn Stone, and each actor had to maintain their character while also fitting into a shared story world. This naturally created moments where opinions about scripts or character direction might differ. However, the important thing to understand is that long-running productions rely heavily on teamwork. Without cooperation, a series like Gunsmoke could not survive for over 2 decades. Curtis's ability to stay with the show for many years shows that, overall, he adapted well to the working environment and maintained a professional reputation. The idea of serious personal feuds is often exaggerated in modern retellings, especially online, where dramatic storytelling is more attractive than simple facts. In reality, most of Curtis's working life on the show was built on consistency, discipline, and shared responsibility, rather than constant conflict. At the same time, Ken Curtis's role as Festus Haggen became so popular that it naturally changed how audiences and even producers viewed him. When an actor becomes closely associated with a single character, it can create both opportunity and limitation. Festus was originally introduced as a replacement for Chester Goode, played by Dennis Weaver, but the character quickly developed his own identity. Curtis brought humor, warmth, and a unique voice that made Festus stand out. As a result, the character began receiving more attention, which sometimes led to discussions about screen time distribution among the cast. In any ensemble show, balancing character importance is a constant challenge. Some actors may feel their roles are being reduced, while others gain popularity. This is not unusual and does not automatically mean personal dislike between performers. Instead, it reflects a natural evolution of storytelling in long television series. Curtis, like many actors in similar situations, likely had moments where he wished for different creative direction or more focus on his character. However, these feelings are part of professional life in entertainment rather than evidence of personal hostility. Over time, Festus became one of the defining characters of the series, helping the show maintain its popularity during later seasons. His presence added a lighter tone to the often serious and moral-driven stories of Dodge City. This balance between humor and seriousness is one of the reasons Gunsmoke remained successful for so long. Beyond a television set, Ken Curtis also built a reputation through his earlier work in music and film, which helped shape how he approached acting roles. His experience with the Sons of the Pioneers and his earlier musical performances gave him a strong sense of timing and audience connection. This background made him different from many other Western actors who came strictly from film training. Curtis understood rhythm, timing, and performance flow in a way that came from live audiences and musical stages. This skill translated naturally into acting, especially in scenes that required humor or emotional subtlety. He also worked in films connected to major Western directors like John Ford, which exposed him to a more cinematic style of storytelling. These experiences helped him adapt easily when television became his main platform. Unlike some performers who struggle with the transition from film to TV, Curtis seemed comfortable in both environments. His career shows a gradual shift rather than a sudden change, which often leads to more stability and long-term success. Even when he took smaller or less famous roles, he maintained a consistent style rooted in authenticity. He did not try to reinvent himself constantly, but instead refined the type of character he was known for, grounded, humorous, and relatable in later years. Discussions about Ken Curtis often focus not only on his career, but also on how Hollywood memory reshapes the lives of actors after they become famous. Over time, stories about